Hello, Jacksonites, and welcome to a brand new series joined by my first proper guest of the year. The last time I tried to have this guy, it was botched beyond belief.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Like as soon as we were doing the middle of it, like everything just died in the middle of it. And it was like we were gonna rank the Halloween series or something, and just
That was very embarrassing.
I know I was just like left alone. I'm like, okay, bye everyone.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. It's embarrassing. So today, debuting the first episode of Super Cyborg Binge, as I am going to be calling this series. Me and good old Seanie Boy from JTISREBORN.
Howdy everyone, good to see you. I mean, it's been a while since we done one of these, and it's good. It's good. We got the timing right. Our schedules lined up. This is nice. It's nice when
Today,
things can line up.
me and Seanie Boy will be reviewing the 1987 sci-fi action grindhouse fucked up masterpiece that is Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop from 1987. Oh, goody gumdrop. This is a very special one.
Oh, it's amazing. It just gets better and better each time I watch it. And I didn't get the chance to rewatch it before this, but I mean, I've seen RoboCop like 20 times. Um, it's such an entertaining movie.
So, to reiterate for Super Cyborg Binge, this is not going to be a very long series, but I will be re-reviewing um, the original RoboCop trilogy, mainly for those movies. It's because back then I had a lot of technical problems, and I could have gone a little bit more in depth. Namely, with RoboCop 2, I think I could have gone a little bit more in depth. But especially with this movie, my original review was kind of unwatchable. I had a lot of technical problems, like bad internet and bad connections, that just made the video unwatchable. So yeah, the original RoboCop trilogy. I will also be reviewing for the first time the 2014 RoboCop remake, even though I do give my opinions pretty solidly in my 31 on 31 uh, Terminator, RoboCop, Tremors, and Alien and Predator ranking with Trevor Boy. I think I can go a little bit more in depth with that one as well. Cinematic Trash is here. Hello.
Oh, is that Pierce?
I
What's
will
up,
also
Pierce?
be reviewing the 1993 or 1994 RoboCop TV series, as well as the RoboCop Prime Directives miniseries as part of this little series. And I will be re-reviewing Terminators 3, Salvation, Genesis, and Dark Fate, as well as the first time reviewing Terminator the Sarah Connor Chronicles. And then I'm going to wrap this series up by doing a ranking video of all technically 6 RoboCop installments and 7 Terminator installments. So I think that should be fun. And starting off in chronological order, of course, we will be doing RoboCop, partially nostalgic.
Do. Since I like spent a considerable amount of time in downtown Detroit, they were supposed to be building like a RoboCop statue, and I don't know if it's down there now or not because I've been down there a bunch of times, but
I wouldn't be surprised if not, because Detroit is a shithole.
not all
Um,
of it. I can, as somebody who like works a lot in Detroit, like there's actually some pretty nice stuff. Like I mean, there are definitely it's bad areas, but like if you're like downtown and like the Campus Martius area, there's a lot of cool stuff in that too. And then like by the Ren Center and all that. So nobody's going to get that unless they've been to Michigan. But I'm just telling you straight up, there's a lot of cool places in Detroit. Although just last year, some crazy crackhead threatened to kill me when I was down there, so that was interesting. But anyways, Detroit's cool.
yeah, starting with RoboCop, A, due to chronological reasons, but also B, to stall for time, because I still have not finished RoboCop the series.
I've never watched RoboCop the series.
It's finally available on Blu-ray for the first time in the US since its release. Shit you not.
Oh, cool.
So it's expensive. Anyway, and also there's only going to be 2 episodes of this series starting out because next month I have something special planned. Not going to say what it is, but just wait and see. So, starting our first episode, Seanie Boy, what might be your personal history with the original RoboCop?
Had it on that good old fashioned Orion VHS, and then I just had it on our shelf, and then I just watched it. That's basically the history. I don't know when I first saw it because my brother had seen it, and then he was watching it, and I saw like this big violent. I was really little when I first saw RoboCop, and it was just big violent craziness, and I'm like, okay, I gotta see. Like the guy turns into like that toxic waste monster, and I was just like,
Oh God. Ugh.
oh god. So then I'm like, I gotta watch this movie.
Couldn't kill that guy quick enough.
Yeah, like that guy gets like the worst, most violent death.
Don't
And
touch me, man.
yeah, like oh man. And then
Okay,
like
so it
and then
looks
just
like
in
I have
general,
to
years
do
and
this.
years watching, it just grows on me more and more the more I watch it. Even on TV, when it's edited for TV, it's really funny. Um, no, because the dubbing, it,
I think it's unwatchable on TV.
it's funny. Like it's like Casino. Casino's way. I'd rather watch Casino edited for TV because I just laugh so much more because they dub over all the lines.
Watch Dexter dubbed. I dare you. It's atrociously hilarious.
Which Dexter are we talking about? The
Dexter the show.
which Dexter the show? Like Dexter's Lab or
Oh,
Dexter the serial killer? You got to
Dexter
be
the
more
serial killer.
okay. You got to be more specific because there is like an R-rated episode of Dexter's Lab where they're swearing. I'm 100% serious when I say that.
Okay then. Okay, so RoboCop does have a very long history for myself, although my origins of it are a little scatterbrained. So, growing up, of course, I was a big Terminator fan. I saw Terminator 2 when I was about 4 years old or so. It was part of that. I've talked about this many times. It was part of that collection of movies that I would cycle through as a kid. Terminator 2, The Mummy, the original Star Wars trilogy, Jurassic Park 3. Well, the first three Jurassic Park movies, actually. Um, Hercules, Godzilla 1998, and True Lies. So, yeah, Terminator, of course, I was introduced to at a very young age. And growing up a little bit more, I think I was around 10, no, 8 or 9 years old, but I had heard of the name RoboCop. I think I might have heard it at school. Like some kids were telling me that it was kind of similar to Terminator. So I got kind of curious, but I didn't have the resources to look into it. I just heard the name RoboCop. But I was at my stepmom's dad's place. Now he was a big movie buff too. He had like the first three Jurassic Park movies, the first three Terminator movies, Predator 1 and 2. And it was there where I watched the first Alien versus Predator for the first time. But I was looking through because he had a big collection of VHS tapes. So I was looking through them and I discovered he owned the original RoboCop. So I pulled it out, looked at it, and I was like, oh, so that's what he looks like. And Mike is his name. I asked Mike, "Hey, can we watch this today? I've heard of this before. I heard it's kind of like Terminator." And Mike told me, "Yeah, it's a little bit." So we popped it in, and I sat down and watched the original RoboCop for the first time. And I kind of remember not really digging it very much. It was a very different kind of movie from what I had been exposed to up until that point. So I also kind of wasn't paying attention to it all that much because I was 8 or 9 years old, but it just didn't really stick with me all that much for some reason. But about 3 years later, 3 or 4 years later, I was on vacation with my dad, stepmom, and a family that they were friends with. We all went to Mount Hood for a vacation for about a week. And on TV, there was, and I was much more familiar or able to pay attention to new movies. at this point. And on TV, there was a good chunk of RoboCop 2 that was being played. And I recognized RoboCop, so I sat down. I was like, oh, wow, there's a second RoboCop movie? And even though I remembered not really digging the original very much, I still wanted to check it out. And I liked a lot more of what I saw from that. Jump ahead another 3 years. I think it was about 14 or 15 at this point. My mom and I used to frequent a flea market quite often. So, and there was a lot of vendors there that would sell movies. And for a long while, that was my place where I would go to get movies. I bought the first two Austin Powers movies there, King Kong on the original, the original King Kong, Jaws: The Revenge on VHS, and the first Blade movie I bought there too. But
Jaws: The Revenge.
yeah, that was a fun episode.
That was probably my favorite one. I've always wanted to make love to an angry welder.
And
I've
you
dreamt of
dreamt about
nothing
it
else.
you were a small boy.
It's so stupid.
I've never seen Jaws: The Revenge, but I've seen the house I bought my mother. It's lovely.
That's number one on my bucket list, Nick. Of all the things I could do in this world, I want to sit down and I want to watch Jaws: The Revenge with Michael Caine for the
I
entire
wouldn't do
movie.
that because it's so bad it just might finally kill him.
But you know what? What a way to go out. The movie's so, the movie's so bad it actually just
the guy the vendor there who was my usual go-to for movies, one day he had a copy of the original RoboCop still sealed. So I bought it and my mom took a look at it and she was really suspecting that it was a stolen DVD. Oh well, mine now. So I went home that night and I watched RoboCop with a fresh mind. And I loved it. I fucking loved this movie. And not too long after that, I bought RoboCop 2 on VHS from that same flea market, so I was able to have myself a nice RoboCop double bill. But this movie absolutely blew me away. I thought it was one of the best movies that I'd ever seen in my life at the time. I still do, but this was a big rewatch for me for a very long time. Matter of fact, at one point during one summer, I must have rewatched RoboCop at least. This is definitely one of those movies that I've seen 100 times because over the course of that summer, I must have rewatched this movie at least a couple dozen. Drove my mom absolutely insane, but I don't give a fuck. I love this movie. And to this day, RoboCop has been a very heavy rewatch in my household. It was one of the first movies that I watched when I moved into this apartment. It was also the first new review that I had done on my channel when I first moved into this place. And I've rewatched this movie many, many times since then. This is a classic without a shadow of a doubt. And it's one of my favorite films of all time. Also without a shadow of a doubt. It's very involved, but oh well. Anything you want to add before we jump into the plot?
No, I mean, RoboCop's just one of those movies I've just watched time and time again. Never get sick of it. It's so entertaining. The villains are such shitbags, and
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I know, but like, I mean, even
it's
like it's
kind of not to.
It is. I mean, Paul Verhoeven is a director I really like because he did this, Total Recall, Starship Troopers.
That's an awesome movie.
That's like a perfect trilogy of movies to watch back to back to back. It's that like goofy satire.
Thank you.
It's that goofy satire, the excessive violence that he thinks is just so funny, so he just keeps throwing it in there. Because like Paul Verhoeven's one of those directors who's just
like. I'm only saying this because I just got done watching this for the first time. Paul Verhoeven should totally direct some Peacemaker episodes.
Brilliant.
All righty. Let's
Paul Verhoeven should just direct more movies in general. He hasn't done a big American movie in forever. It needs to happen again. It's ridiculous. Come on back, Paul. We miss you.
Alrighty, so RoboCop is a 1987 American science fiction action film directed by Paul Verhoeven. This movie being his first big American movie. He did another movie in 1985. I can't remember what it was called, but this was the first one that got big, widespread acclaim and also a big release. It was directed by Paul Verhoeven and written by Ed Neumeyer and Michael Miner. The film has an ensemble cast of Peter Weller, Nancy Allen from Carrie, Daniel O'Herlihy, Ronnie Cox, and Kurtwood Smith. Set in a crime-ridden Detroit in the... I can just imagine Red Foreman being next to me. In the near future, RoboCop centers on police officer Alex Murphy, who is murdered by a gang of criminals and subsequently revived by the mega corporation Omni Consumer Products, OCP, as the cyborg law enforcer RoboCop.
You burnt the fucking money.
It's as good as marked, you asshole, you stupid asshole.
He's so goddamn funny.
Unaware of his former life, RoboCop executes a brutal campaign against crime while coming to terms with the lingering fragments of his humanity. RoboCop, when it was initially released, got kind of mixed opinions. It was expected to perform well despite the studio not thinking it would, mainly due to its title, RoboCop. It does sound like a cheesy Roger Corman B movie. Let's see. It was a financial success upon its release of July in 1987, earning $53.4 million against a $13 million budget. Reviews praised the film as a clever action film with deeper philosophical messages and satire, but were conflicted over the extreme violence throughout.
The violence makes it funnier, just as Paul Verhoeven says.
But since its release, RoboCop has been critically reevaluated and has been hailed as one of the best films of the 1980s, one of the greatest sci-fi and action films ever made. Rightfully so. And it's also been lauded for its depiction of a robot affected by the loss of humanity, in contrast to the stoic and emotionless robot characters of that era. It started a franchise comprising the sequels RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3, 2 animated kids cartoons, 2 live-action television shows, many comic books, and many video games, one of which being RoboCop Delta City, with Peter Weller returning to provide motion capture and voice work for RoboCop, which will be an open-world RoboCop game, which that sounds cool. A remake was released in 2014, and a direct sequel to the original 1987 movie, tentatively titled RoboCop Returns, is in development as of 2020, ignoring other entries in the series, which I think is a shame. At least pick up after RoboCop 2.
Yeah.
The plot of the film: in a near dystopia, Detroit is on the brink of societal and financial collapse.
So go ahead and say it, Nick. I know you want to say, so like Detroit today. But, I'll say this. Detroit's not as bad as it was a few years ago when Kwame Kilpatrick was mayor and he was stealing money from the city. Hey, I'm from Michigan. I got to bring it up. Like, literally, there's a Michigan Comic-Con sign right there. So,
more on that when we talk about RoboCop 2. Overwhelmed by crime and dwindling resources, the city grants the mega corporation OCP, Omni Consumer Products, control over the Detroit Police Department. Does this sound like a good idea? OCP Senior President Dick Jones, played by Ronnie Cox, demonstrates Ed 209, the enforcement droid, Series 209.
Oh, God, Ronnie Cox. It's so good.
A law enforcement droid designed to supplant the police. Ed 209 malfunctions and brutally kills an executive. I am now authorized to use physical force. Police brutality. Allowing ambitious junior executive Bob Morton, played by Miguel Ferrer.
Another great actor.
Sorry. To introduce the chairman, the old man, played by not Connell Cochran. That's the guy who that's the guy from Halloween 3.
Right.
Oh, Daniel O'Herlihy. That's who he is. I just know him as Connell Cochran. To his own project, RoboCop. Meanwhile, Officer Alex Murphy, played by Peter Weller from Buckaroo Banzai fame, is transferred to the Metro West Precinct. Murphy and his new partner, Ann Lewis, played by Nancy Allen, again from Carrie, pursue notorious criminal Clarence Boddicker, played by Red Foreman himself, Kurtwood Smith.
Fantastic. Can I just say, Kurtwood Smith, love the guy. I mean, did you watch that 90s show by chance?
Nope, I'm not watching it till there's at least 3 or 4 seasons of that.
Okay, I watched it. It's 10 episodes. Red is great. I forgot, like, seeing him back and just being Red again, it just reminded me how much I missed him.
10
Fantastic.
episodes is not enough.
Well, season 2 is coming up, so.
And his gang, Emil Antonowski, Leon Nash, Joe Cox, and Stephen Min.
Who was the guy with the goofy laugh?
I think that's Leon.
God, that guy.
Yeah, that's an obnoxious
She
sound.
was sweet. I just love when they're just blowing shit up too and just having fun. Like, those are the kind of villains I love. They're such assholes and they're proud of it.
The gang ambushes and tortures Murphy until Boddicker fatally never mind. Until Boddicker fatally shoots him.
Go ahead, Nick. You know you want to do it.
Morton has Murphy's corpse converted into RoboCop, a powerful, heavily armored cyborg with no memory of his former life. RoboCop is programmed with 3 prime directives: serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law. A 4th prime directive, Directive 4, is classified. RoboCop is assigned to Metro West and hailed by the media for his brutally efficient campaign against crime, which I totally support. Lewis suspects he is Murphy. By the way, a la Judge Dredd, which I'll talk about that a little later.
We got to talk about Dredd at some point, Nick. That's a very good one.
Recognizing the unique way he holsters his gun, spinning it in his finger, a trick Murphy learned to impress his son watching the show TJ Laser. During maintenance, RoboCop experiences a nightmare of Murphy's death. He leaves the station and encounters Lewis, who addresses him as Murphy. While on patrol, RoboCop arrests Emil, who recognizes Murphy's mannerisms, furthering RoboCop's recall. RoboCop then uses the police database to identify Emil's associates and review Murphy's police record. RoboCop recalls further memories while exploring Murphy's former home, his wife and son having moved away following his death. Elsewhere, Jones gets Boddicker to murder Morton in revenge for Morton's attempt to usurp his position at OCP.
Bitches leave.
Yeah. RoboCop tracks down the Boddicker gang and a shootout occurs. He brutally assaults Boddicker, who confesses to working for Jones. I work for Dick Jones! Dick Jones! Where was I? Oh, RoboCop attempts to kill Boddicker until his programming directs him to uphold the law. Yes, I am a cop. He then attempts to arrest Jones at OCP Tower, but Directive 4 is activated, a failsafe measure to neutralize RoboCop when acting against an OCP executive. Jones admits his culpability in Morton's death and releases an Ed 209 to destroy RoboCop. Although he escapes, RoboCop is assaulted by the police force on OCP's order and is badly damaged. Lewis helps RoboCop escape to an abandoned steel mill to repair himself. Millions of tons of scrap metal just sitting there rotting. Typical Detroit. Angered by OCP's underfunding and short staffing, the police force goes on strike, and Detroit descends into complete chaos as riots break out throughout the city. Jones frees Boddicker and his remaining gang, arming them with high powered weaponry. Cobra assault cannon, state of the art, bang bang. Um, to destroy Robocop. At the steel mill, Boddicker's men are quickly eliminated, but Lewis is badly injured and Robocop becomes trapped under steel girders. Even so, he kills Boddicker by stabbing him in the throat with his data spike. Robocop confronts Jones at OCP Tower during a board meeting, revealing the truth behind Morton's murder. Jones, in order to escape, takes the old man hostage, but is promptly fired from OCP, nullifying Directive 4 and allowing RoboCop to shoot him. Dick, you're fired. Thank you. Causing Jones to crash through a window with a terrible, terrible, terrible stop motion puppet to his death. The old man compliments RoboCop's shooting and asks him his name. RoboCop replies, Murphy. Thus ending the movie, not exactly on a happy note, but still, that is the end of the movie. Johnny Boy, this plot.
Incredible. Just incredible. I have no complaints about this movie. I just love the shit out of it. It's like I said, it's one of my favorite action movies of all time. It's so endlessly entertaining, and even just now, as you're kind of talking about it, just going through the plot, I'm just remembering specific scenes and cheesy lines of dialogue, just the satire involved, the over the top gore. I just want to just like watch those scenes again. Even as you were kind of talking, I was skimming through, looking up some clips. So I'm just like, "Bitches leave," or "You just fucked with the wrong guy." I even called him Boner. just the stupidest lines.
All the old man funny names. Iron Butt. Boner. Once I even called him asshole.
Oh god, I don't know. I'm like I don't know what else to say. I just love everything about it. The 80s aesthetic, the goofiness, the Paul Verhoeven just need to make everything as excessively violent as possible because he thinks it's funny, and he's right. He's
Uh-huh.
absolutely right. It makes it funnier. I think the plot's great. I think it's so over the top and just excessive, which makes the satire in that all the more funny. Uh, I mean, I can't complain. I'm at a loss for words, Nick, because I just love RoboCop. I mean, I don't know how else to like put that into words. It's just so entertaining.
Yeah, this movie's plot is pretty damn special. It really kind of like with the original Terminator, it really takes only a decade like the 80s for movies like this to be made. It's incredibly over the top violent. It's extremely over the top 80s. It's just a very over the top movie. Um, it's glamorous, it's loud, it's bombastic. Um, it's just a very balls out, whack ass crazy movie, but somehow it all works. It all coalesces in this near perfect, well oiled machine. No pun intended, because Robocop is a machine. Um, yeah, it everything that Shawnee Boy said is true. This is just a very well made movie. It's very engaging. It's very well made. It's well thought out. It's well directed. All the satire is really good. The effects are really good. Um, Action's great. The characters are great. Everything about this movie is just entertaining as hell. This, in my opinion, is one of the most easily rewatchable movies ever made. Because not a second goes by in this movie, in my opinion, where there's not at least something either funny or awesome happening on screen. Um, this is just a true classic kick-ass movie.
It is.
Pros.
It's so good.
Since you didn't
Pro.
write any down, I'm guessing. Do you want me to go
I wrote a
first?
few things down, but you can go with your first. You want to just go back and forth? How many do you have?
I have 10 pros.
I got like 7 because like some of them just kind of mixed together. So do a couple.
Well, the first 2 are characters. So pro number 1 is
That's
Alex
fine.
Murphy / RoboCop himself. Duh, of course. If the movie's called RoboCop and RoboCop himself is not badass, you got a problem. RoboCop is easily one of the most iconic and recognizable figures of the 1980s for action movies. I could easily see like a Justice League or Avengers styled poster of like John McClane from Die Hard,
John
Johnny
Matrix.
Rambo, John
They're
Matrix,
all fucking named John.
Dutch from Predator, the Terminator.
John Wick is named John
RoboCop.
too. Why is every one man army guy basically named John?
Because
John
John is a
Matrix.
very blue collar type of name.
I know, but it's always fucking John. Where's the Sean? Bullshit. The only
There's
Sean I can think of
Sean
is
from Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue.
yeah, but like movies. Shaun of the Dead spelled differently than me. You know what? I have one. Sean Archer from Face Off. That's about all I can
Moving
think
on.
of. Have you seen Face Off?
No. Nah. Not interested. Moving on. So yeah, I could easily see a big Justice League style roster of 80s action heroes and have RoboCop be amongst them so easily. RoboCop is absolutely one badass motherfucker. Not to say very much about Alex Murphy, mainly just because he's not on screen very much as Alex Murphy. But he does come off as being a likable and easy to get along with type of guy. And he does come across as being a skilled and experienced police officer. But the main, of course, chunk of the film does focus on RoboCop. And he's awesome. I love his design. I love his suit. I love his fucking gun, the Auto 9, one of the most badass movie guns of all time. I want a BB gun at least of that damn thing. Fuck. Excuse me. I love his voice. I love his mannerisms. And of course, I just love watching RoboCop go around and just gun people the fuck down left and right. It's entertaining as hell. RoboCop is awesome. He's a lot of fun to watch, and he's one of the biggest icons of the 1980s and one of my favorite fictional characters of all time.
And
Of
he
course.
shoots people in the dick.
Yep. That's another thing I like about him too. He does have a slight sense of humor to him. Mainly, shooting him in the dick or your move, creep.
Butters, you shot him in the dick.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yep. RoboCop is awesome. Can't say enough good things about him.
All right. Into my first pro, RoboCop himself. So basically, copy paste exactly what you said. Peter Weller is fantastic in the role. I think his
Oh yeah,
voice
of course.
just
Peter Weller does a really good job, both as Murphy and as RoboCop. He does a
this movie
very
doesn't.
good job of incorporating mannerisms of Murphy into RoboCop, including the audience and also a couple of the characters. Like, this looks kind of familiar. Where have I seen this before? Oh, it's Murphy.
Yeah, like I said, I thought he did a really good job. He has the jawline to make him like a Batman, and of course, he voiced Batman in Dark Knight Returns, and he was really good there. All the stuff he basically said, copy paste.
I
Fine with
probably should, well, not should, but I will point out there are a fair amount of similarities between RoboCop and Batman as characters and also some certain story elements. They both take place in heavily crime-riddled cities. They both have to contend with a pretty corrupt government system, and they both have a roster of violent criminals in their repertoire of villains, and they both have pretty similar tragic origins and backstories. Um, this I'm not the first one to point this out. There have been quite a few people who have noticed there are quite a few similarities between RoboCop and Batman. Um,
Both
continue.
played by the same guy at one point.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, pretty much everything you just said, copy and pasted. I mean, you pretty much put everything into words. The excessive violence, just the cool suit design and everything that he has going for him, his mannerisms, the performance, just the craziness of it all. RoboCop's just fucking cool. Let's be honest. You see that thing, you see him walk down the street, he pulls out his
Oh
gun.
fuck!
Exactly. RoboCop's just awesome. So there you go. Copy paste, same thing.
Pro number 2 is Ann Lewis. With every good cop or every great superhero, usually there has to be a pretty good sidekick. And I don't think you could have asked for RoboCop for a better sidekick. She is a very likable character. One thing that I didn't notice, but I like really wanted to keep an eye on, and I was right. I don't really detect any like when it's just Murphy and Lewis. I don't really detect any romantic or subtly sexual themes between the two. Their chemistry comes off as just being good partners. They have each other's back. They work together well as a team. It's brief, but you can still see these two as being a good duo. Um, their chemistry is really strong. Their camaraderie is very strong. And I think it's a little bit better in the next movie, mainly because we see more of it. But still, in this movie, when it's at Anne and RoboCop teaming up as partners, their camaraderie and chemistry is very strong. Um, it's not sexual, it's not romantic. It's just two partners that are having each other's back. They care about each other, sure, but only in a platonic, friendly kind of way. Um, and it's really good. It's really really well done, and she's not on screen all that much, but when she is on screen, Nancy Allen does a really good job playing Anne, and she is convincing as a badass female police officer. So good on her there. Fun fact about Nancy Allen too, because beforehand Nancy Allen was a little bit of a 80s sex symbol, mainly due to Carrie, and there was some other movie that she was in where she was pretty scantily clad throughout. But Paul Verhoeven kept requesting Nancy Allen to cut her hair even shorter and shorter throughout shooting the film to tone down her sexiness. Um, so yeah, that's kind of cool. I can see what Paul was doing. There's no real need for any sexuality for Anne Lewis in this movie. She's just purely a badass police officer.
That's what the fan fiction's for.
Boy. Continue.
Okay, so pro number 2 for me. I mean, what's a great hero without great villains? And
Oh,
for
dear.
me, number 2
I was
is
gonna
the
save
villain.
this, but okay, we may as well talk about it together.
Right. Like I said, Nancy's pretty good too. I mean, you can kind of lump her in with, I mean, some of the supporting cast, but for me, it's the villains that really help sell this movie.
Pro number
Ronnie
2
Cox.
for me is Clarence Boddicker and Dick Jones, played by Kurtwood Smith and Ronnie Cox. Damn, these guys are the shit. So we'll start with Clarence. Actually, no, let's start with Dick Jones because he's not as big a role, but still, he's still memorable.
He's the head honcho. I mean,
Yeah,
would you consider Bob Morton? Well, he's kind of more of a scumbag.
Bob Morton is a scumbag, but he's not exactly a villain per se. He's just
Right.
kind of he's more like an anti-villain, I would say.
You know,
He did it purely for himself.
right. I'm gonna put the villains and then other scumbag plus scumbag Bob Morton because he's pretty good. um, they're so good. I mean, I even tweeted once at Kurtwood Smith, and he kind of responded about it, like about how good he was in RoboCop, and you know he liked the tweet and all that. But God, Kurtwood Smith Ronnie Cox. I think Ronnie Cox had never really played a villain, and he
I was going to mention this. It's kind of funny when these two were initially cast. They were cast against type because beforehand, Kurtwood and Ronnie were known as like funny guys. It's kind of similar to Bruce Willis doing Die Hard. A lot of people knew Bruce before Die Hard just as the funny guy, and people just like, wait, what? You're casting this guy as this kind of character? And it ended up working out for the better. And definitely for Kurtwood, and I just call him Kurtwood. That's a weird.
Just call him Red Foreman, because he's just. I mean, Red Foreman's just an iconic. See, the
for
thing
Ronnie
is,
and Kurt, it ended up being for the better, especially for Ronnie, because a couple years later he would play another villain in another Paul Verhoeven movie, Total Recall.
I think
you're fucking making it happen.
And I'll tell this place to be home in time for cornflakes.
And he would also play the captain of the Beverly Hills Police Department in the first two Beverly Hills Cop movies.
Another Detroit icon, Axel Foley.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I did actually see them filming Beverly Hills Cop 4. I went to the set in that.
Oh, I hope it makes up for part 3.
Yeah, I think it will. I think so.
But continue. Clarence and Dick.
God,
wait. We're starting with Dick. He's not in the movie that much, but when he is on screen, he is pretty memorable.
You just fucked with the wrong guy.
He does a very good job. He's got a very good, like, angry, jealous face. And he also has a very good shit-eating grin. I'm cashing you out, Bob.
Hello, buddy boy. Dick Jones here. You could tell the actors are having the time of their lives.
Monster of yours doesn't screw up.
Who cares if it worked? I had a guaranteed military contract.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, God, they're just so much fun. Like, you could tell, like, even the scenes where it's just the two of them, like, just kind of talking back and forth with each other. Richard. Or, what was it they said? I'm trying to think.
I can't quite remember, but I see what you're going for. Even when he's being civil, you can just see this slimy, angry, pissed off undertone to all his dialogue and his mannerisms and facial expressions. He's just a selfish, greedy piece of shit scumbag.
There are no redeeming qualities with him.
Not really.
He's just the worst. He is just. You can tell the writers had fun because they just made like the most awful people
and possible. Very over the top too.
I'm just laughing just thinking about like his death scene.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But let's get to the real best villain of this movie, Clarence Bodiger, played by Kurtwood Smith. God damn, the 80s really was the best decade for over-the-top piece of shit villains. The only other two villains I could think of who are even or come close or even more over the top than Clarence. Bennett from Commando and Captain Rhodes from the original Day of the Dead. But I think, I don't know, because Captain Rhodes is pretty fun to watch too.
But it's Red Foreman. I just sometimes watch his compilation clips from RoboCop when I'm just kind of skimming through YouTube because his scenes are the most entertaining.
Can you fly, Bobby? Kurt is phenomenal.
I think I laughed the hardest where he's you burnt the fucking money.
It's as good as marked, you asshole, you stupid asshole.
Or when he walks to the police station, just give me my fucking phone call.
Look at my face, dick. You tried to kill me.
Or
Clarence Bodiger, you are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent.
Fuck you. Okay. Yeah,
come on, Sal. Tigers are playing tonight. I never miss a game.
Ooh. Guns, guns, guns. Anyway,
I don't
so
like cops, and cops don't like me. No, 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 no.
Kurt does a great job as Mr. Boddicker. He's very over the top. He's very
bitches leave.
hyper. He's very vicious. He's very slimy, and he's just a lot of fun to watch. And he's also very unpredictable. He can be very cold and calculating one moment and just be very mean and nasty the next, and be very sinisterly playful and a little bit like the Joker.
Yeah.
He's just a very fun villain to watch. And all of his lines and scenes are just complete gold. I mean, we've been spending a good chunk of this review quoting Clarence lines.
Like I said, I could just quote his whole lines because he's so entertaining. And even then, even outside of the two main, we still have some fun little like side character villains too. Like they're just having fun, blowing shit up. You have the guy with the over the top laugh. I even laughed
at that sound is very obnoxious.
That guy should have played the Joker. He has the laugh for it. But one of my favorite moments too is where he thinks he kills RoboCop after like he gets all that stuff dropped on him. And he's like, "Yeah!" It's like a triumphant
I got
moment.
him, Clarence. I got him. Boom. Oh, she got you. Fun fact: that guy is played by Ray Wise, the original Swamp Thing.
Oh,
Well,
cool.
human Swamp Thing, I should say. But yeah, Clarence is a very fun villain. He's one of the best villains of the 1980s.
He is. He's so good.
He's so over the top. He's so chaotic and crazy, but he's so entertaining and so fun to watch.
I miss villains like this so
Yeah,
much. The closest we got in modern times, I feel like, was Ewan McGregor in Birds of Prey, because he's just such a piece of shit, but he's so over the top.
Piece of shit.
Yes, I mean he's pretty flamboyant, but God, Ewan would have been a much better Joker than Jared Leto if they allowed him just copy and paste and just, you know what I mean?
Oh, Crow Job. I see what you mean.
Yeah, God, he was so entertaining. But like, I love piece of shit villains. They're just so irredeemable, but they have to be fun. Like, you can have piece of shit villains with no redeeming qualities, but you have to make them fun in that way. You got to make them over the top, just assholes in every scene, just to the absolute extreme. That's Clarence Boddicker, and he's so entertaining.
Plato in the original Day of the Dead as Captain Rhodes.
Yeah, they're just so entertaining, and you want to see them get their comeuppance, but they're almost too much fun where you don't want to see them go.
But in this movie, Clarence does get a very good comeuppance, as does Dick. But I prefer Clarence being killed off,
right,
more because it's a very personal, visceral death.
And then to add to the villains, as I said earlier, side piece of shit Bob Morton, he's pretty entertaining too. The part where like Clarence goes to kill him, he's there snorting cocaine off some like hookers. Like just a scene like that,
I don't really have anything to say about Bob Morton. I mean, yeah, he's a slimy in it for himself, just sniveling little weasel, but yeah, he's memorable. But I just don't really have anything to say about him.
Right. I mean, his death is pretty funny.
Yeah, true.
I liked Miguel Ferrer as an actor.
He's a good actor. Yeah, he's done some good voice work for a lot of DC stuff.
Yeah, Deathstroke.
He was Aquaman in Superman the Animated Series.
He was Deathstroke in the Judas Contract.
Yep.
Also, Hot Shots Part Dukes. Like he has like. Have you ever seen the Hot Shots movies?
Nah, I'm not really interested. In
okay,
them.
the second one is
the movie.
The second movie is very funny. He has one of the funniest like like roles in the movie, like where he just starts like crying and it's just like I can't kill anymore, and he's just like Charlie Sheen's just like, hey, you big bad GI Joe, and it's just like so over the top. And then he has the funniest line after he kills somebody. He looks at the camera and he's like, war, it's fantastic. He just has this shit-eating grin. I'll send you the thing so you can watch it afterwards, but it's I mean, I really like this guy and stuff. He's entertaining. He has some memorable lines and bits. The bathroom scene alone between him and Dick is one of my favorites because they're just like he's kind of a shitbag trying to like step over and Dick Jones is just an even bigger shitbag, like with another even shittier person, like as his like main like henchman, if you will. Oh, God, it's just so like can we get villains like this again? We
Please.
please, like fucking please. Like I think what was one that kind of made me chuckle? I saw a movie called Nobody recently, and it kind of had like little hints of villains like this. Like one of the villains, just one of the main villains of that movie, walks into a hospital. He grabs one of the hospital. He walks in, he grabs a chair, and he like walks into the room where like some of his henchmen got beat up or whatever. Takes the chair, just throws it at him, kind of like Rick O'Connell in The Mummy, but the guy's just laying in his hospital bed, already like injured beyond belief. He just takes the chair, just chucks it at his face. just like a piece of shit moments like that. We need over the top villains like this, but like fun. I miss it.
Pro number 4 for me is OCP itself. You could say that's a villain in and of itself too.
Right.
As the series goes on, especially by the time RoboCop 3 comes around, it definitely at this point pretty much is a villain. It may as well be like Diet Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil. But I do like the concept of OCP. It's a big mega corporation that goes around the world, and it flaunts itself as being this big, super positive, just giant corporation of people who want to do anything and everything possible to help people and save the world. But this is part of the satire of this movie. It's OCP is purely in it for themselves. They want to control anything and everything they can get their hands on for profit and control. And I think that makes them a very good villain. From what I've heard, OCP apparently is as a villain is heavily downplayed in the RoboCop show. So I'll have to talk about that whenever I get to the show. Sorry, my nose keeps fucking itching. But yeah, I love OCP as a concept. I'm always a big fan of mega corporations and fictional media.
Right, because they make them so over the top, and it just makes it more fun.
Yeah.
So, but you know that kind of goes into my. You kind of mentioned satire there. That's my basically like my third pro right there. The satire in this movie is hilarious. The way it points out, like I said, like the corporations and
yeah, that's
all
my
that.
fifth pro.
Okay. I mean, you can kind of go into it more if you want, but like I said, the satire of this movie is pretty funny. The way it kind of pokes fun at the excessive violence of like police brutality and all that, and just the like the you know what I mean, the excess, the over excessiveness of it, the way the corporations act, all family friendly, but they're really in it for themselves. The over the top gore. The sheer amount of excess and all that, it all just makes the movie all the more funny. So there you go.
Yeah, the satire I think is very well done in this movie as well. Thankfully it's not like, well, no, it is kind of in your face, but it's portrayed as being really in your face in the movie's universe. So I think they get away with it being in your face, but at the same time,
I'd buy that for $1.
which I don't know is that a show or is that just a fake ad?
I don't know. The Nukem game is still my favorite one. Nukem.
Yeah, probably mine too. It just goes to show that OCP is trying so hard to make themselves look family friendly, but if you look below the surface, you can just tell, yeah, they're just they're totally in it for themselves. But yeah, it is subtle, but at the same time, it's not subtle. But that's what makes it more funny and more clever, in my opinion.
Because they make it so over the top. There is no subtlety.
No, but in this case, I don't think it really needs it.
Right,
because
you can look at it at the surface.
It is.
Huh? Well, because like you said, because you can look at it at the surface. Oh, go ahead.
Because of how funny it is, but it's a good case of hiding in plain sight. So good on Paul Verhoeven. He's definitely a director that is really good at displaying subtle messages and satire. Some people have tried to say that Starship Troopers has some kind of hidden message in it or some kind of social commentary in it.
I mean, it's right in your face.
See, that's the thing. I don't really see it.
I'm doing my part.
Huh?
What do you mean, like the commercials they did? I'm doing my part.
Yeah, that's mainly it. But I just think that that's a little different. I think that what the hell is that term? It's like heavy military propaganda.
Right, but it's like played up for laughs because it's so excessive.
And this kind of similar greedy corporation business tycoon shit would also be carried into Total Recall. Played a little bit less obvious, mainly due to the well, no, there's a couple fake ads, but it's a little less shoved in your face, but it is still there. So
Right. I mean, like you have Cohagen just taking air for money.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Come on, Cohagen. You got what you want to give these people air.
Yep, pretty much. So yeah, the satire in this movie is well done. It is subtle, but at the same time, it's not. And like
Right.
I said, it's a good case of hiding in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
So good on
So,
Paul Verhoeven for that.
yep. That also kind of leads into my next pro, which is the comedy, which goes kind of right in hand with the satire. This is a very funny movie. It's so over the top violence. This also kind of leaks into my next pro, which is the excessive violence. So they all kind of molded together, but the comedy, the satire, the excessive violence, it all rose into one beautiful package. It just keeps me entertained. Like whether lines are intended to be funny or not, I don't necessarily know, but it makes me laugh. Every line from Clarence Boddicker is basically really funny in like a dark sense of humor sort of way. The villains are so funny because they're so over the top, like unreal. Well, maybe not. We don't know because there could be some CEOs who do dirty stuff like that, but they're so out of touch.
No.
Right. They're so out of touch with reality, which is what makes it all the more funny. And just like the excessive violence at times with can we talk about the guy who just becomes like a molded toxic waste dude and then he just explodes?
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
But yeah, so the excessive violence, comedy, satire, they all kind of roll into one and just it just makes me smile like once it starts. Or just little moments too, like Bob Orton snorting cocaine off some hookers. Just it's so over the top, like bitches leave. That's another funny line. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words, Nick. Like there's just so many good things about the movie, and sometimes it's hard to kind of put it into words. You know what I mean? It's just like
Pro number 6 is the music score.
that's my Pro 6 too.
The music for this film was done by legendary composer Basil Polidoris. He is an American, or what? I guess he's dead now. Oh, yeah, he's dead now. Was an American composer, conductor, and orchestrator of film and television scores. Best known for his long-running collaborations with John Milius and Paul Verhoeven.
Oh shit, he did Conan the Barbarian?
Yeah, among his scores are Conan
That's
the
one of
Barbarian,
my favorite scores.
Red Dawn, Iron Eagle, RoboCop, The Hunt for Red October, Free Willy? Okay. And Starship Troopers. He won a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Music for the miniseries Lonesome Dove in 1989 and a 4-time recipient of the BMI Film Music Award. Shit.
Okay, we'll say this though. Conan the Barbarian, excellent score.
Absolutely.
I love
it.
I didn't
He
realize this was the same guy.
died in November 8th, 2006 at the age of 61. Ouch.
Mm-hmm. I sometimes listen to the Conan score like from time and time again, like that intro.
He died of lung cancer. Ouch.
Oh, rest in peace. Phenomenal music though.
Conan the Barbarian in a long time.
It's pretty hokey, but I still want to see the third movie because Arnold wants to make it.
I ain't gonna hold my breath. They should have made that years ago. But anyway, the music by Basil is fucking phenomenal. The RoboCop theme itself is so iconic in 80s and awesome as fuck. Dun, 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 dun. I love it. It's one of the most badass pieces of music of all time. You could literally have a clip of some dumbass passed out drunk lying in a pool of his own vomit, and put the RoboCop theme over that clip, and it would still make it look badass. It's just absolutely amazing. It's lightning in a bottle. The music in this movie is just awesome. It's very heroic. It's very bombastic. It's very action packed, but it's also whimsical, emotional, and heartfelt when it needs to be. It's a very varied score, but it's fucking awesome. No, what's the term? Nothing that we would expect less from the work of a master. Basil was at the top of his game when he was doing this movie.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I pretty much agree with everything you said because like one of my pros was the score. It's very memorable and like I said, it just fits the theme of the movie so well, ends the movie well. I mean, I sometimes hum that theme. Dun, 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 dun. I didn't know until this video. I was kind of looking up. I didn't realize he also did Conan the Barbarian, which I'm like, wow, another fucking awesome score. So, I mean, the 80s had some great music, but like this guy, like I said, it just makes it all the more awesome knowing that he didn't do just one iconic score. He did at least two with between this and Conan. Um,
And
so,
Starship Troopers,
and
and Total
Starship Troopers.
Recall, and Free Willy.
Oh yeah, Total Recall. That's right. Free Willing. I'm trying to remember the score. I remember the Michael Jackson song with it.
Well, he had nothing to do with that, but he did the rest of the music.
Right. I got to rewatch Free Willy again. It's
I
been a
did
long.
too.
It's been so long. They made a trilogy out of that. Well, technically 4 movies, but like with the
Plus the
same actors.
cartoon show. Moving on.
You know what? Just on the Free Willy subject, I want to make a shark movie, but it's just like Free Willy, but instead it's a killer shark, and it's about a boy who befriends this killer shark. But it's like done in like a family. It's like directed like one of those '90s family whimsical movies, but it's like a parody of those. But then the shark kills people, but it still like has this family friendly like directing to it. Like you have the goofy '90s villains in it, but it's like set up against the backdrop of like excessive violence. I don't know. I just felt like randomly saying that.
Maybe
I
that's
think it.
what we'll get with Cocaine Bear. So moving on.
Oh, I can't wait to see Cocaine Bear. I'm seeing that next week. It's gonna be fucking amazing.
Pro number 7 is the action scenes in this movie are pretty fucking awesome. There's lots of shootouts. There's lots of explosions. There's lots of gun action going on here. And this will pretty much tie into my next pro. Pro number 8. This movie is violent as fuck. It's very gritty. It's very over the top. It's very shocking. It's very visceral, but it's very entertaining, bombastic, and over the top and almost cartoonish at times. When people get shot, they just explode blood. The squibs in this movie are huge. They just splatter blood all over the place. Sometimes they'll get shot more than once and they'll just spray blood all over the place. Yeah, there's lots of good blood and carnage in this movie, and it's very 80s and excessive and over the top as fuck, but it's also entertaining and over the top as fuck. It's awesome. Yeah, good violence and pretty damn good action scenes.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that's kind of one of my. So I put the action sequences also at my number 7, and then like I said, kind of two left that kind of all mold together. So, like, I mean, my favorite action scene is the scene where he, initially arrests Clarence, where he just kind of shoots out that whole like drug dealers. Playing, it's just so excessively violent and great. And he's like, "I work for Dick Jones. You fuck you. You're a cop." Yes, I am a cop. But it's like you want to see these one man armies take out like pieces of shit like they do in this thing, and it works. And then the next thing, I'll just finish out my pros. The practical effects, I think there's a lot of really.
We'll talk about that together.
Okay.
But one last thing I want to say. My favorite kill in this movie, without a doubt, is Clarence. So they establish. So when RoboCop gets pinned under all that scrap metal, they establish earlier on that RoboCop has like this spike in his fist that he uses to hook himself into the police database. But as you might imagine, that probably could be used as a weapon. So when he gets pinned under all that scrap metal, Clarence takes a sharp piece of steel and stabs into RoboCop. And he gets really close. He's like, "Sayonara, RoboCop." But his one hand is free. So he deploys his spike and he jams that right into Clarence's neck. And he yanks out his fist, and an explosion of blood just splatters all over RoboCop's chest. And he like falls away. He's clutching his neck, but blood is just spraying out all over the place. And it's so over the top and very visceral, but it's so satisfying. This guy spent the whole movie being a complete piece of shit, and it's very satisfying watching him get a very good death as a good comeuppance. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the rest of that one and the toxic waste guy.
Oh God. So we'll use that as a segue. Pro number 9 for me is the good special effects. 90% of the time, the effects in this movie are pretty damn solid. I would say that they are a bit better than the original Terminator, but in my opinion, they are ironically also equally as rough around the edges. But it's kind of hard because this movie had twice the budget that the original Terminator had, yet it's also as rough. But I'll explain that a little later. So, yeah, the effects in this movie for the most part are pretty awesome. The RoboCop suit itself, this thing gave the filmmakers quite a lot of trouble. Uh, Production for this movie was kind of a mess, almost entirely due to this damn RoboCop suit. Peter Weller had to get into a skin tight bodysuit, which for some reason took 3 hours to apply. And then it took another 7 hours to apply the rest of the RoboCop suit. And it weighed, I think, up to 50 pounds. And because they shot this movie during the summer and also having hot studio lights blasting on him in all directions, Peter Weller lost, I think, about 20 pounds all from sweat doing this movie with that damn suit.
Oof.
And at first, the suit was almost unusable because it was so clunky and bulky and stiff. RoboCop originally was supposed to move and walk very differently. It was very fluid. It was very Snake and Tai Chi like.
So like the remake?
Yeah, I'll talk about that when I get to the remake. But it was supposed to be very different. But the suit was so bulky and it was so stiff. They had to completely retool Peter Weller's body language and mannerisms for the suit practically. And that's why Peter Weller brought on a French-Israeli war vet mime teacher called Mouni Hakim for 2 weeks, and these two worked together in creating the new movement for RoboCop. It was very exaggerated, and it was very slow and clunky, kind of like the suit itself. But that was a necessity because the suit was so heavy and bulky. But it was a happy accident in showcasing RoboCop's body language and how he moves. It's very robotic. It's very stiff. It does come across, this is just now coming to me. It definitely does showcase that RoboCop very much is a prototype. So you can definitely say that they hadn't ironed out all the kinks and flaws in this plan. This is very much the first time something like this has ever been done. And probably on screen too. This is the first time something like this was done too. Different than Terminator. That's way different than this. But the suit itself is very well made. It looks great. I love its color scheme. Dark metallic blue with dark black gloves. The The squibs, like I said, are very well done. They splatter blood all over the place. There's lots of good explosions. There's lots of good scenes that are where the sets are being torn up by robots and bullets and bombs.
Now, quick question: how painful are squibs?
Kind of depends. Because they can kill you if they explode outwards. I think it's just like a bit of pressure. Oh, they have pads too, but if the padding is thin, it probably just feels like you're having a baseball thrown at you. But if there is a case where I don't remember the movie, but there's an action movie where a stunt guy had a squib that was applied to him backwards. So instead of exploding outward, it exploded towards the guy's head, and he got like third-degree burns all over his chest. But
How?
squibs are pretty dangerous. Yeah, all the squibs look really great. The sets look really great. There's a lot of use of matte paintings to make like OCP Tower look a lot larger. That's a matte painting. Um, there's some stop motion in this movie too. Phil Tippett was brought on to do the Go motion variation for Ed 209 and the big dinosaur for that fake commercial. Uh, I'd say it's good for the most part. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but it's still cool. I actually think stop motion works really good for robots.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for robots more than anything, because it's that unrealistic walk, if you will. It's like a
Yeah,
it's there's something about it that just kind of works. It makes it
yeah,
more creepy because it's off. It's off a little. It's not human.
yeah.
It's
And
not organic.
that works to its advantage. It's even better in the next movie, but still, Ed 209 is pretty good in this movie. There's also a little bit of stop motion for RoboCop too, which is used during his fight with Ed 209. It's very brief, but you can tell that it's RoboCop stop motion. Um, yeah, for the most part, and of course, probably the biggest practical effect of all is Emil as the toxic melted dude. Oh, it's
It comes so far out of nowhere.
yeah, it's just like, whoa, what the fuck is happening here? So Emil gets slathered in toxic waste, and he looks like a mutated hunchback from Notre Dame. His skin is literally just melting off his bones. His clothes are torn and melted and tattered. His face is all droopy and melted away and fucked off. Like I said earlier, you cannot kill this dude any quicker because holy fucking shit. Oh god.
So excessive.
Yeah, very. And when
Or-
he gets run over, he just liquefies, literally. It is so visceral and nasty, but it's just like, oh my god, what am I watching? This is so beyond fucked up. That's all I have to say about the effects. They're really, really good, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, effects were my next pro, and pretty much everything you said about them, I agree with. Like I said, the stop motion I think works for robots because it's an inorganic movement, if you will. It makes it feel more robotic, if you will, not human like, and I think it just adds to the effect, makes it a little bit creepier and just kind of otherworldly. Um, of course, our toxic waste guy, he just what the fuck? It's such a drastic turn from everything else that's going on in the scene. It just comes right out of nowhere. When I first saw it, I was like, "Ugh,
Ugh.
ugh, what the fuck?" And then he just implodes. So yeah, like I said, I really like the practical effects in this thing, and just most of the special effects look good.
Done by Rob Bottin, by the way, the same guy who did the effects for John Carpenter's The Thing.
Really, well, there you go. That tells you everything you need to know about those effects. Okay, and then into my last pro. I think the production design is something because like
That can
just
be
kind of
rolled along with the effects, but
with
yeah,
the
the
effects
production
and that. So
design
like
is
I
good
said,
too.
it's set in like a futuristic Detroit, which isn't like overly futuristic. It's still kind of
No,
like
it's near future. I think there's a novelization that says it's like the 2030s 30s, maybe. It's been a while since I've looked into that, but
We're getting close to it.
there is a novelization of either RoboCop 1 or 2 that states the year is in the 2000s. I think.
Okay, but to the point, like I said, I think the production design, some of the designs of the building, just kind of the settings and that, like good old 1980s Detroit, which I don't think they filmed everything in Detroit. I think they filmed in.
No, they actually filmed a lot in Pittsburgh.
Okay, but yeah, like I said, the production design I think is pretty good. Good old downtown Detroit. Yeah.
Looks
So
like shit.
in this for sure.
And my last pro, taking a page out of Trevor Boy's book, is the legacy of this movie. I don't think this movie is quite as influential as the original Terminator, but I do
slightly better.
I do think it's very close. This is a very popular movie. This is a very iconic movie.
You know why it's not as iconic? Because they didn't have the Terminator 2 effect. And plus, you didn't have Arnold in it. Arnold was just the bigger star.
Arnold was considered briefly to play RoboCop, along with Michael Ironside, which would have been cool, and Rutger Hauer, which also would have been cool. But
Those
they needed
good too.
They needed a skinny guy to play Peter or RoboCop, so they got.
Well, they would have lost the weight.
He lost even more weight because he was already skinny to begin with. But anyway, yeah, the legacy of this movie cannot be denied. This is a very popular movie. Lots of people at least know the name RoboCop and have seen this movie at least once. Yeah, it's all over pop culture. Lots of people have referenced this movie throughout the years. Lots of people have paid tribute to this movie. This movie has a pretty dedicated fan base to the point where there's a huge, very ambitious documentary in Search of Darkness style called RoboDoc being made, which does have Peter Weller contributing to doing a couple scenes, but he also donated some money to its cause. But it's a big retrospective about the making of and cultural impact of the original RoboCop trilogy. But yeah, lots of people are big fans of this movie, and its legacy cannot be denied. This is a very well made, very influential, very memorable movie. And yeah, like I said, I don't think it's quite as influential as the original Terminator. And I've said before, I still am Team Terminator, but this is a damn fine movie, and it's a very important movie, and just a very entertaining movie. So yeah, the legacy of this movie cannot be denied.
Mm-hmm.
We have no cons, but I have two nitpicks. One is very minor, but one of them is a bit layered.
Okay. I guess I'll go into my nitpick. And this could also kind of be considered a pro if you like the cheesiness factor. But as you stated earlier in the video, some of the effects are a little rough around the edges, particularly with Dick Jones and his.
Hold on. Yep, we'll talk about Oh, man. So my first nitpick,
What is he, Mr. Fantastic now? Look at his arms.
This is the really minor one. I do think this movie is just a little too short. Just a little. It could have used like an extra 10 minutes. Mainly just because I want to see more of RoboCop cleaning up Detroit. Fucking up criminals left and right. Just because it's awesome and entertaining. I'm just like, I want more of that. Give me more of that. I want to see RoboCop tear bad guys apart.
I'll say this, Nick. Sometimes it's always good to leave the audience wanting just a little bit more and not overstaying your welcome.
Well, but sure. But also, that's what the sequel is for.
Right, exactly. I mean, this one was just, it was so good, you didn't want it to end.
Yeah, pretty much. So my main nitpick with this movie, while I do think that the special effects are very good, there are some cases where you can see the chinks in the armor. I have 5 little bullet points here. Number 1, when Ed 209 fires the rockets at OCP Tower, you can see the strings pulling the firecrackers on a stick across the screen. The screen. If you're paying attention, they're quick shots. They probably did that on purpose. But if you're paying attention, you can see the strings pulling the firecrackers along. It's a little obvious. Number 2 is that there's a couple flaws with the suit, the RoboCop suit, namely the gloves and RoboCop's crotch piece. It just kind of flaps around whenever it wants to. But there's also
As I said, fan fiction. That's how it happens.
Boy. But there's also a couple scenes when RoboCop is like lifting his arms up, and you can see a very obvious gap between where the glove starts and the rest of the arm of the suit continues. It's very obvious. It kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. No pun intended. It's talking about the gloves too. This is more of an issue. The hell? Oh, my Christmas lights just died. Shit.
Your Christmas what just died?
My Christmas lights. I have another string up here.
Oh,
They just died.
yeah. You know what? Here, 1 second. Just to make up for the lack of Christmas lights.
Nice.
Because we got to have
Anyway,
Christmas lights apparently in the video.
In the next movie, you can clearly tell that the fingers of the RoboCop suit's gloves are like 2 inches longer than Peter Weller's own fingers because they kind of bend when he closes his fist. Well, I'll talk about that next time.
Okie dokie.
Number 3, there's a couple bad window squibs. Namely, when Kurtwood Smith is being thrown through windows by RoboCop, there's a lot of shots where you can obviously see there's like a tiny explosive in the corner of the window to make it shatter before Kurtwood Smith goes through the window. And it's a little delayed and pretty obvious. Like you can clearly tell it shatters right before the stuntman goes through the window. It's just a little obvious. That's always kind of bugged me about that scene, is that you can clearly tell they shatter the windows before he goes through. There's also some sketchy stop motion. Like there's a couple, maybe not the stop motion itself. Well, RoboCop has stop motion. I don't think there's only one quick scene. It's when RoboCop grabs one of Ed 209's guns and goes to blow its own arm off, but you can tell that RoboCop is stop motion, and it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. But there's a lot of scenes where you can clearly tell that the stop motion was composited on screen, and you can kind of see the edges of where that shot was composited. Like another scene that's the worst of it is when RoboCop's going down the stairs when Ed 209's chasing him. It's really quick, but you can see that RoboCop's head looks very transparent right as Ed 209 comes on screen as RoboCop's going down the stairs. Like you can see Ed's foot right behind RoboCop, and you can see it through his head. But the most infamous bad effect in this movie, which is so laughable, and I pointed it out to Meadow one time.
It's kind of amazing.
It's kind of funny, but when Dick Jones gets shot out the window, they don't use a stunt double. It's a stop motion puppet, and his arms are like 9 feet long. And he's flapping around like a fucking pterodactyl. And oh my God, it's so bad. It sticks out like a sore thumb.
But it's kind of amazing.
I would have been much happier had they just green screened him, like green screen Dick Jones falling. Like
no, Nick. This is way funnier.
It's funny, like it's something to laugh at, but it's so jarring seeing all the really solid practical effects beforehand, but then you see this. It just kind of takes the impact of this slimy douchebag having a good comeuppance when the effect doesn't pull it off. It's just kind of a shame.
But like in a way, it kind of fits because he's so slimy. He's such a piece of shit. He gets the most laughable death of them all.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So, anything else to say?
I'm trying to think. Like I said, this movie's endlessly quotable. There's excessive amounts of violence in it. It's really, really funny. There's just so many memorable scenes in it. Great production design. Lots of cool practical effects in there. Lots of cheesy effects in there too, especially our good old Dick Jones death scene. This movie makes me miss 80s villains like this because we just don't get villains like this anymore. It's always like, oh, I'm going to conquer the world, or oh, I'm a sad, sympathetic person. Please feel bad for me. No, 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 no. I want my asshole piece of shit villains that are so over the top and being assholes again, like this, but fun. Because you can get those unsympathetic villains, but if they're just generic, it just kind of takes the fun out of it. But
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it's just so good. This movie is amazing. I mean, the score, performances. I mean, it's just top tier. Like,
Yep.
It's the first in what I call the classic Verhoeven trilogy. You watch this, Total Recall, then Starship Troopers. I mean, you can watch some of his other stuff, but I say just stick with those three.
I like Hollow Man a lot too. Even though he disowns that movie, I really like Hollow Man. I think it's a pretty solid movie.
Right, but I still say stick with those three, you know.
And each movie just keeps getting better in this trilogy.
I think I still like Starship Troopers, but I'd put RoboCop over that. And it's tough for me to choose between this and Total Recall, though. I'll give it that. Because that one's extremely memorable too. Because that one has Arnold in the lead.
Yeah,
and you do get Ronnie Cox back, which is great. But you also lose Clarence Boddicker, but you get Michael Ironside.
Yeah, Michael Ironside. Yeah, there you go.
Consider that a divorce. We got to talk about Total Recall at some point. The '90s one, the remake sucked.
I've never seen the remake. I don't even acknowledge its existence. So
think about this, Nick. You had Kate Beckinsale and Jessica Biel in a cat fight, and I still was bored.
Let's wrap up our thoughts. So, Seanie Boy, go ahead.
Like I said, I love RoboCop. In fact, I'm probably going to watch it after this video because I didn't get the chance to watch it before we did the video. That's probably why some of my thoughts are a little scattered because I think I watched this last year.
Yeah, I think you're fine.
Yeah, because like I said, I've seen it enough times. I mean, I can still quote a lot of it, but I just love the shit out of this movie. It's so entertaining. It's kind of like a Commando in a way, where it's just over the top. It's never boring. It's endlessly rewatchable, and it's fucking fun. The humor is on point. Just the over the top commercials. Nuke 'em. I'd buy that for $1. Just so out of nowhere, random stuff, but it's just so good. It's just so fucking good. Peter Weller, RoboCop, iconic, synonymous with Detroit. I'm torn between who's the more iconic Detroit cop, RoboCop or Axel Foley, because the Beverly Hills Cop movie,
I give it to RoboCop.
I know you would, but I mean, both those franchises Beverly Hills Cop made a ton of money too. But then again, RoboCop is just set Foley really in Detroit, so I mean, I guess I could give it to him. And then in third place, we'll give it to Action Jackson. So, but
I've never seen that movie.
I haven't seen all of it. I've seen a lot of scenes. There's a scene where somebody drives at Carl Weathers with the car, and he does a front flip over the entire car. Like he looks like he's like being pulled on like a wire, like it's some kung fu movie. And then the car like goes off a ramp, does a barrel roll in the air, crashes and like explodes. It's so over the top.
I'll have to look into that. So my final thoughts on RoboCop.
10 out of 10 movie, by the way.
This is a phenomenal movie. It's very entertaining. It's very iconic. It's very well made. While it does have a couple chinks in the armor, this is just a very special movie. I highly recommend anybody and everybody should sit down and watch this movie.
They really should.
Yeah.
You have to watch RoboCop.
Even though it's super violent, let your kids watch this movie.
Fuck, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Watch the toxic waste dumped guy.
That's maybe the one scene that I would skip over, but still.
Yeah, have your kids watch Bob Morton snorting cocaine off some strippers' titties or something. That's always wholesome.
Yeah, RoboCop is a very special movie. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It's one.
I even called him asshole.
Boner. Yeah, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Despite all this great praise, I will not be giving this movie a perfect 10. I will be giving it a very solid 9. It's those special effects nitpicks that really hold this back for me. But they just are nitpicks. This is still a very special movie, and it's one of the best movies ever made and one of the most entertaining movies ever made. Highly, highly recommend this film.
Oh yeah, you mean it's so good. Watch
Damn
it.
it.
It's pretty darn good.
So, Seanie Boy, anything to pimp out?
Just posted some stuff on the channel a couple after the movies. I did my Valentine's Day special. That was fun to do. I don't know. Have you seen it, Nick?
Nope.
Okay, I want you to watch it. It's only like 9 minutes long, just for the ending, because I think the ending will get a good laugh out of you. But yeah, so now I'm getting back into stuff. I got something else I'm kind of working on right now. My goal is to hopefully get it out next month. I was trying to think, I'm just kind of announcing this here. Let's hopefully it'll get out, but I wanted to do like Monsterverse month next month for March. So maybe like each Monday in March, kind of post a review on all 4 Monsterverse movies. That's something I want to do. Hopefully I'll be able to get that stuff out there, but that's kind of one of the big goals. And then I got some other stuff on the channel I'll be working on, and just other stuff. I also showed up in Jack's part 2 of his Ready Player One thing.
Yeah, I
So,
still need to get my scene done for that pretty soon.
yeah, I know. Yeah, because part 3, just there's so much stuff he's putting into this thing. It's like a big epic movie. But yeah, I shot some stuff for part 3. I'm not going to say what it is because I won't be giving spoilers because I don't want to ruin the fun. But it shoots some pretty fun stuff. So the part 2 stuff kind of made me chuckle because I did like a Palpatine hologram.
Yeah,
for it. Okay, yeah, that was pretty fun to do. So
look forward to next week where I will return to Super Cyborg Binge with the painfully, extremely underrated sequel with 1990s RoboCop 2. Hopefully, I can have Seanie Boy on me as a guest.
I don't remember seeing, because I've seen lots of RoboCop 2 on TV. I don't remember ever sitting through it all the way through fully.
You need to do that because it's a very good movie.
I know my brother told me RoboCop 3 is really bad, but
it is. But we're not talking about 3. Won't be talking about 3 for a while. But
now, does RoboCop 2 have kind of like the same like bits of satire as the first one?
Yes.
Is it still really funny?
Yes. It's also very violent still.
Because Frank Miller wrote it, right?
Yep. It shows. But we'll talk about that later. Yep. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. Look forward to my next review. And as always, dead or alive, you're coming
with me.
Your move, creep. And I will
Bitches
see
leave.
you guys in the next video. Bitches leave.
Fuck.